Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Dean. How are you?
Welcome, sir. Okay, so let's jump right in. First of all, tell folks a little bit about you, and then I've got some hypothetical situations that I'm going to run us through.
Absolutely. So I'm the principal and founder of a consultancy called Verisa, which has been up and running for a couple of years. But I do fractional CRO work and revenue strategy and leadership development,
Okay.
primarily in the entertainment media space and for the creator economy. And prior to that, I've spent over 20 years in the media and entertainment space, building some high revenue teams and systems for companies like BuzzFeed and Kevin Hart's media and entertainment company, Heartbeat, over the last few years. And so have been doing that for a long time. And now I do that with other companies and brands that are looking to scale their revenue.
Right on. So, yeah, very much sort of in the consumer space then.
Yeah. And so I do some stuff in the tech and the B2B side as well too, because the strategies and
Right.
philosophies that I do translate all over. But yes, a lot in distributed content, digital media, advertising, the brand stuff that everybody's seeing all over the place right now. So
Right. Okay, so let's walk through what's going to turn out to be a very busy hypothetical day for you.
okay.
We're starting off. You're going to show up at a client's place because they're close to your home. That's not very common, but it is now. And right, and it's the first day of the first time you ever work with them. So
Okay.
you're walking in. It's your first sort of like, hey, let's officially get started kind of thing, right? What's the dream scenario you're walking into, and what's the nightmare scenario you could be walking into?
Got it. So I'm going to set a foundation that can
Mm-hmm.
either be a nightmare or a dream, depending on the leadership. So walk in the door, there's no process, there's no training. Sales is kind of just, they have their account list and it's pushing product.
Right.
There's no data, there's no CRM, or it's used very ineffectively. And so the reason why I say that could be a nightmare or a dream is really depending on, the people, the operators and the executives that I'm going to be working for and with and their mentality. So let's start with the nightmare. If there's leadership immaturity and ego, right, this is a nightmare.
Right.
So, when I talk about immaturity, it's first they think that my job is essentially just to be a super seller and to come in and really just juice the revenue that's there and, get them, be a rainmaker. The ego part is, the CEO kind of thinks they know everything. And so they don't exactly want, an expert to come in and tell them what they're not doing right, but instead like just kind of, say, just kind of do what they think and say, right? And then, there's also misalignment with the executive team, unrealistic timelines, right? Like all of these things that just play in this nightmare scenario. Now, it can also be a dream scenario, at least in my opinion, because these are all really easy things to put in place and to show value right away if you have the right leadership in there. So if on the flip side, you walk in and the CEO is just very self-aware that like they are really good at making this a business, but they don't know what they don't know about how to really monetize it, what's the structures and the systems, and they want a professional to come in and build enterprise value and say, hey, you have the authority and you have the investment and you have my commitment and we're going to work together. And I want you to work with all these teams. And I understand it's going to take a long time and it might be painful. Then that's a dream scenario because I can come in and say, hey, in the first 30 days, I set these processes, we put these systems in, we organize data that we don't have now, but we're now going to have some really good data to help inform us in the next 6 months. I look like a hero, right? So it all depends on, the executives and the board and everyone being in line. Now, I do a pretty extensive vetting process in my clients, but ego is a really hard one to see when you're just having conversations. I've had multiple times where I've walked in the door, both jobs and contract, where we're aligned on expectations. I think we're ready to rock and roll when I walk in, and it's like, yeah, we'll get to all that. Just go find us some money right now, right? And I've seen it where I've had somebody paying me a lot of money for my advice and guidance, and they take none of it. So not only are they not making revenue the way they want to, but then they're kind of throwing money in the trash by giving it to me for advice that they're not using. So the ego thing, I think, is a really hard one to kind of gauge in advance. I think I'm always getting better at trying to kind of feel it out. But a charismatic leader can really hide that well when they're trying to bring you in to kind of help them.
All right, so I want to talk to you about a mini hypothetical inside that hypothetical. So
Okay.
it's a couple of months later. You're back in the hallways at that client, right? You've been working with them for 8, 10, 12 weeks, whatever,
Mm.
long enough so they get like a feel for you. And one of the members of the board or the C-suite, or maybe one of the investors, is walking down. You're walking. He's like, "Hey, Stephen, I had I had kind of a revelation about you yesterday, right? I understood the value prop when we were, when we allocated for the budget to bring you in, but right, and what you were going to do, but I didn't really see or understand like the extra thing you were bringing in until like just yesterday, and I
Mm.
sort of realized, oh, we have that now. What is
Yeah.
that thing?
Uh, that's Jesus. It's a bunch of
What
them,
do
but
or here's an easier way, right? What do clients typically not fully appreciate you're bringing to the table
yeah,
until they've seen you like start executing it?
yeah. I think operational alignment within all of
Yeah.
the divisions, right, is the one big one. Um, you're not just running sales. Revenue is touched by lots of different divisions across the board, and you have the more direct ones like product and marketing, and you have more of the indirect ones, right, as well too. And it's really your job to be that orchestrator of all of those teams to really collaborate. I've always taken pride in my leadership and in creating teams and infrastructure that everyone wants to kind of help, because especially sales, everybody thinks of CRO as sales first and it's a sales thing, and it's a big piece of it because they're the ones out in the marketplace.
Right.
But it has such a terrible connotation, right? Like the content team or the marketing team is just like, oh, those sales guys, right? They're just out to try and make money. So really orchestrating and making the entire organization row the boat towards, enterprise value and sustainable revenue growth, I think is that one thing that a lot of organizations just don't realize, right? And if you think of the board of directors, they're trying to protect their investment,
Yeah.
or they're thinking of top line revenue, right? And so those things that really lead to that is, I think, overlooked a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, a hypothetical super busy day. So you already had prior commitments. So you're already going to be with these guys by till around 11. Then you need to drive downtown
Mm-hmm.
because you're the keynote speaker in front of 250 people at a conference downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And you get on stage, and everyone in the audience has sort of, they've paid their dues, they've worked their way up through the ranks, and they're starting their first ever chief revenue officer job tomorrow, whether full time or fractional.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at them, you're kind of the expert, to them, you're an incredible expert, right? And so uh, I'm going to give you a few thoughts, 3 actually, one at a time. And
Okay.
you just finish the thought with like the reality of the situation, right, as you're going to tell it to this audience. Number 1, you're looking at them, you're saying, look, I'm going to tell you, many companies, many of your clients just don't understand what?
Uh, they just don't understand how important revenue operations is, I think, right? It
Yeah.
is the backbone of everything you do. I think it is under prioritized, underestimated. They are the ones that are going to help everything run more effectively and efficiently, both internally and externally. And so I think a lot of new CROs don't realize how important that function is, and I definitely know it is under prioritized by a lot of other executives, whether it's through investment, right, or it's like, hey, we have somebody in finance. I hear that all the time. That they'll be able to help you. I'm like, they're not a professional revenue operations person.
Right.
So I think that's one big one that I think is just not understood uh, in a lot of organizations, or it's considered like a luxury, or it's kind of like a backroom operation. So yeah, I put so much emphasis on revenue and sales operations, where if I painted you a picture of, let's say I came in as a fractional CRO, and there was a sales team of 10, and we needed to double revenue in the next year, and they're like, here, we're going to give you 5 new heads for 5 new AEs, and there was no like structured revenue operations team, I would not hire any of those 5 people. I would put a killer revenue operations leader in, and some, like some point people on sales operations and a few other things, because those people will help the 10 existing double revenue.
They're
right?
a force multiplier.
Yeah. So I think that's
Okay.
just highly misunderstood on like what those teams actually do.
All right. So then next thought in your 3-part speech, right? And so you're going to find, you're talking to the audience, you're going to find as a CRO that you're going to be surprised by what?
Yeah, there's two big ones here. First one is just how much data driven this role is, right? So it's constantly assessing, understanding what's working, what's not working, what are the gaps, how you're actually adjusting those, and then not only just utilizing that data to make those decisions, but it's always on. It's essentially your day job, right? So you're constantly then tracking, measuring, and reporting back and looking at how you're making those adjustments, because every business is different, right? You might have all the experience in the world in that industry or that type of business, but that business is going to be different than any other one you worked in. So some of your decisions are going to be left of center. They're not going to be right. How do you make those adjustments? You have to be watching and planning. And then the other side is like the industry's changing. The financial environment's changing, all of those things, new competition. So you are constantly changing and evolving. And it's not just a set it, forget it. I think that's the one big surprise that, again, you're not a sales leader. You're not, like I said, you have sales leaders in place. Like you are a CRO. You are there to build long-term enterprise value. And I think the other big one when they first walk in the door is if you are really going to be a change maker and make meaningful change that will impact the business long term, you most likely are going to have a negative impact on revenue in the beginning, right? Because you are going to be changing how your product mix is, how you're actually going to market. If you're changing the types of deals that you actually want to be doing, where now you're saying no to clients that would typically be coming in. And so that's really scary. And it is very easy to abandon when it's like, oh, this is actually like revenue is declining, like this isn't working, we need to go. And so not only do you need to really commit to that and trust the process, but like it is your job to over communicate the why and the measurement of progress outside of revenue, because top line revenue is just one little piece, right? Bottom line revenue now is your new job as well. But also if you're just staring at the big number, like you are looking at the wrong thing. It is got to be over communicated to your CEO, to the board of directors, to the CMO, to all of these other executives on like, this is what we're doing. Here's how we're progressing toward it. This is what we expected to happen. We weren't expecting this to happen, but this is why. Like over communication, right? So it's that data side and then that over communication of your process so that people are really understanding. And I've been talking about this from an executive level. The team below you needs to understand as well, too, why they're doing it and why this is important. Because if you don't have commitment from both sides, then it's, you're just a really smart person that's trying to make change and nobody's on board with you.
All right. Okay. And then because you work with clients, and so you're not currently in like a full-time role by choice, then I'm going to ask you one that I wouldn't normally ask a full-time oriented CRO, which is this, right? Other than networking, what's the one thing you want the fractional CROs in that audience to know about finding their next client?
I think it's being a thought leader in this environment, right? You have a lot of really smart people out there, and you're going to network and you're going to meet great people that are going to introduce you to potential clients. But I think having a really strong point of view and be a thought leader in the space is going to be a superpower that people will now be able to look at you as an expert in the industry and seek you out. So networking is great, and it's going to definitely drive new clientele, but it's also a lot of work. And so how do you start to create that machine where what you're doing, I mean, even what you're doing here, Dean, right, in this podcast, is it becomes this engine that helps you kind of promote your genius out to the world a little in different ways, so that then when somebody does talk to you, right, they're already kind of aware of what you bring to the table and they want to talk business.
No one who watches this podcast or this clip is going to necessarily ever interact with the new YouTube channel and TikTok channel that I'm starting up. I haven't started one in years, but I'm starting one up for exactly the same reason you just talked about, which is that there's nothing in this podcast that highlights me.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about highlighting the guests, right? I
Yeah.
ask the same questions in everyone. They could replace me with a ventriloquist dummy, I think, at this point, and it'd be fine. And so I'm taking the advice of the CMOs on the other podcast and the CROs on this one around the personal branding type
Yes.
stuff, and starting like my own channels just to like talk about my stuff and like how I work through all these problems for these companies. And so you're right on the money. Yep. But this one here is you're the star on this one. Like I'm just a dude. I could be
And
replaced by any monkey, and
yeah,
you
well,
do just as good.
I disagree in a bit that even though you're not the one dropping knowledge per se, it's also giving you visibility, right? Like even
Oh,
think
it's definitely giving me visibility. We did
it's giving
500,000 views last year. We'll do 1 million this year, and my little name and website are on every one of those clips.
yeah, exactly. So it's
Yeah.
visibility in that you are connected to the smartest people, right? It was CMOs,
Yeah.
now you're doing CROs. So I think there's a lot of value in just being in those conversations because it's just like let's just tie this back into like being a great CRO, right? It's
Yeah.
the best CROs are the ones that are, making sure you're getting to the destination. Like I liken it to a cruise ship captain. Like they're not the ones putting the chairs out and making sure that the band is set and the food is great. Like they have all these great people. They're making sure that all that's working together, and then
Right.
they're getting the destination. So
Yeah.
they're usually not the loudest, right? They are putting a spotlight on their people. They're making sure that everybody feels like they're being raised up. So to a point, like you just having these really smart conversations, you don't have to say anything, and you look brilliant. So
It's a good thing I don't.
I think it's
Okay. So they finally managed to get you off stage. You're a bit of a talker. I'm
yep.
sort of like, no, like we're out of time. And so now you're going to finish out your day by going out onto the convention floor, right? There's booths out there. There's people walking around, and you've got some meetings set up. You know how these things are, right?
Yep.
Hey, I'm going to be there too. Let's meet at the coffee place at 3:15, right? Or whatever. And so as you are talking to folks, you're always prospecting. We're always selling, right? So you're talking to prospective new clients and or employers. When you're talking to them, like in the first conversation ever that you've had with them, like what do they underestimate or what do they undervalue and overvalue? Or what do they underrate and overrate about the
Yep.
CRO role?
Yeah. So overrate, I think it's hire more A's to make more revenue, right?
Yeah.
I think that's highly overrated. Don't get me wrong. I think like the infrastructure that needs to be put in place there is critical. But like if you're doing that without operations and process, you're just amplifying chaos, in my opinion, right? Or you're getting more short-term revenue that's not going to amount to large-term scale, right? So I think just throwing AEs at and bodies at sales, right, is highly overrated. And the other one I think is kind of those hero deals or what's going to save us. I do think those hero deals and those big strategic partnerships are critical, but without strategic rigor around it and purpose, I think that they are just set up to essentially create a massive hole in your revenue in the future, right? So great, we got this $20 million client, but if it wasn't brought in properly and it wasn't executed properly, then they're not going to come back later. And then you have $20 million to fill on top of your growth, right? So I think those are very two very overrated scenarios, right? And so are overrated rated things. And so like I even liken it to I work with a lot of high growth companies, right? So like doubling revenue in 12 months is not unheard of. So you walk in the door and you're like, okay, cool, we're going to double revenue. If you're not putting in those processes and the infrastructure there, great, we just got double revenue. How are we handling it? Right? We're not resourced for it now. And there is so much supply in my industry, in the creator economy, talent business, distributed content, entertainment. It is insane how much supply is there because everybody is now a creator. Is that if you are not just best in class, once like you actually have the deal, like they're gone. So I really think about those hero deals in that, yes, let's go after and think about how we're actually going to go bring in a multi-eight-figure client. But it's not just like, all right, we need 3 8-figure clients this year, right? Like
Right.
that's what I hear it, and I think that's just the wrong way to do it.
It's
Underrated,
criminally underrated.
criminally underrated is just revenue operations and cross-functional alignment, right? I think revenue
Right.
operations is so like they just become right like part of my entire infrastructure. Like it's essentially like my right hand team because
Mm-hmm.
they are going to give me all that visibility on where we need to course correct, what's working, what's not working. um I work some of my best friends in my previous jobs have been the CFO because I'm a numbers guy, and revenue operations is going to give me the power to be able to take numbers to the CFO and the financial team to say, here's what we need, here's why this works, here's how this happens, right? Be able to understand efficiently and communicate to the to the sales leaders, hey, this is where we're seeing our biggest wins, our biggest retention. This is our biggest opportunity for growth. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to lead into this. This is why, right? And then that cross-functional alignment, again, it's like pricing impacts what you're doing. Packaging impacts what you're doing. How marketing is going. Are we aligned with what we're saying in market from a sales standpoint as what we are saying from a marketing standpoint in the general market, right? So that marketing cross-functional alignment, I think, is severely underrated in a lot of cases because again, like CRO comes in and it's like, all right, this guy runs sales, like go make it rain, right? And so,
Right.
how are we thinking about really cross alignment on that stuff? And then the last one I would say is it's across the board. I have a really strong POV on just leadership in general, and so you're the buck stops with you, right? And so you are essentially in a service role, in my opinion, right? Like let's go back to sales,
Mm-hmm.
and just say, all right, sales is a key piece into the revenue, right? How are you servicing them to make sure that sales has everything they need to win big, right? Because they're essentially the bottom of the funnel for the revenue. So if you are constantly thinking about what you are doing and how everyone's servicing you, it's backwards. I think it's underrated when you're seeing, hey, the CRO is essentially, it's kind of that upside down pyramid where it's like, hey, my team on the street is the most important, then it's their managers, then it's then everybody else, then me. I think it's underrated when you're not approaching it as a service to your team, because when you do that, you're raising everybody else up, and then they're at the end of the day going to be the ones that are out hunting and bringing food home.
I heard someone explain that once. He says, Dean, every company will tell you that they love money, but some companies secretly love control more than money.
Yeah,
And they'll sacrifice money to think like they're in control of the people all the way through the chain. He said
yeah,
it's silly, but it's how it works.
yeah. I mean, look, my favorite leadership quote, or one of them. I have so many. I'm like that's such a big quote analogy guy. Is uh, your people will only care what you say when they know what you care. If they
Yeah.
know that you care. I'm butchering it now. I just said it was my favorite quote. But again, like same thing where it's like, hey, like if I show that I give a crap about you and your success, then you'll care what I actually have to say. If it just looks like I'm in control and I want to build an
Right.
empire, then like at the end of the day, you might listen to me because you have to, because I'm the boss. But like they're not gonna do what they actually can do for you.
Okay. I have one more question before we wind down. And
Yeah.
so, as you're talking to these prospective clients, what's like a green flag that a company might throw up, or like the CEO? You're probably talking to the CEO, right? What's a green flag and what's a red flag that you're looking up for, and you're like, that sounds really amazing, or I'm not sure this person or this company is ready for a CRO yet at all. Like,
Yeah.
what's a red flag? What's a green flag?
Yeah. So there's kind of three things that are both red flag, green flag. So authority, alignment, and investment. So
Mm-hmm.
a red flag, right? It's, hey, come be a rainmaker, come juice our revenue, go make our sales team just operate better out in marketplace. Um, but you have no authority in anything else that's touching kind of revenue, right? Alignment and just thinking about are we aligned on what it's going to take to actually build revenue, and then like
Right.
not having any type of investment plans to invest in the infrastructure. Again, you're this kind of miracle worker that they're expecting come in and say, okay, great, like we have a great product and we have good salespeople. Like I just need someone to come in and make it all work, right? It's like, all right, but like we're not going to invest in revenue operations. We're not going to invest in how we're, developing our product or our client services systems and the support functions and all of that. It's like that's a massive red flag. So other side, again, authority, alignment, and investment is the same thing. It's like, hey, we understand that you're going to know how to make this all work. We want real, true enterprise value that's going to sustain through the goods and the bads time, so that we are actually growing substantially over time. And so you have the authority to make those decisions. We can align on those. And if it's something we can't move forward at this point, it's like, how are we giving you authority to be able to do what you need to do and craft those expectations around it? And then we will be looking to invest in it, right, as it go along the way, because we understand that this is going to be a long-term thing. It's not going to be like a quick, hey, money's going to come in really fast, right? How are we building something? It's going to take some time. It's going to be, short-term pain for long-term success. So how are we investing in those things in advance so that we're resourced for the revenue that we want to bring in? We have the infrastructure to really grow and continue to grow, and do the things that are really, really needed to do. I mean, I've had a red flags where I'm like, you are not ready for a CRO, where it's like, all right, their investment is the money they're giving me. And so like, all right, we are paying you this big check. And so like, that's our investment. And like, you now need to go make the money we're giving you into all this other revenue. Mm-hmm. And not like, no, I am the person that's going to help like create the entire structure around it. But then like, there needs to be investment into the company and the infrastructure. Right? So same side of the two sides of the same coin.
Okay. So as we wind down here, who specifically should be contacting you these days, and what's the preferred way to get to you?
Yeah. If you are looking, you have revenue already operating and you're thinking about how you were really scaling and for growth for long term, I would love to talk to you. I talk with founders, CEOs, and investors as well too. I work with a lot of investors that are investing into creator economy, digital media companies, and those types of investments, where now it's like, hey, how do we protect our investment and make sure that it reaches its full potential? And then the other side is I do a lot of leadership development and a leadership coaching, both at a C-suite and even in middle management. One of my my greatest enjoyments is leading teams and building really, really strong cultures. So that's the other side of it as well too. Like, we think about it all in revenue, but just coming in and being either a leadership advisor for the CEO and how they're thinking about revenue development and board projections, all the way to how, say, their director or their VPs can really scale up and be groomed to be a CRO one day, or to just get their team operating. And the best ways, I'm big on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn DMs are one. It's just my first and last name, / first and last name, or email. So steve@varisa.co, VARISA.co, which I'm realizing is on the screen right now. So either of those are the best way to contact me.
No, it's okay that it's on the screen. There's an audio version of this, so it's excellent that you spelled it. All right, Steve, this has been fabulous, man. Thanks very much. I appreciate this.
Yeah, Dean, I'm so happy we connected, and this was a lot of fun. And I want to do it again.
You'll definitely be invited back. All right, and so thanks, Steve. Thanks for everyone who's watching, and we'll catch you next time.